what I tell people, because I get a lot of patients here and I've dealt with so many overachieving, stressed out type A New Yorkers over the years. But they'll come to my office and they'll say, I'm not stressed.
Mm.
And I look at them and I say, but you're doing this and you run from meetings and you're inhaling your lunch and then you have work meetings after, and then you only get like 5 to 6 hours of sleep per night. You may not mentally be stressed, but your body is biophysically stressed. And whether you're registering the stress mentally, your body is registering that stress. And you might lie to yourself with the stories that you make in your mind. You might, say, no, I can handle this, I'm fine. And yet your body is breaking down because your body is biophysically stressed. And there's good stress and there's bad stress, right? So I talk about hormetic stressors in the book. Like, for example, things that are becoming really popular now, and I've actually gotten into myself, like cold plunges, like taking a cold shower, just a high intensity workout. All of these things are good stressors for the body.
And we need this, yes.
Yeah, we need that level of challenge. The problem is when you have chronic, unrelenting, ongoing stress, and you're not doing any sort of self-care to help remedy that situation for your body. So when you talk about that, you get stressed, you lose your appetite. Well, what's happening? Why is that happening? You're losing vagal tone. So your vagus nerve is this, I was saying that in the book, I call it a telephone wire, and that could be because that I'm dating myself back to the age of the telephones. I don't know that people know that now. I probably should have said a fiber optic cable.
Yeah.
Maybe people would have understood that better, but I kind of wanted to go old school. But it's connecting the brain and your internal organs, not just the gut, your heart, your lungs, everything. And it's giving a read on what's happening in there. The reason that I likened it to an old telephone wire is because if you, I don't know if you remember the age of the telephones, but when you picked up a telephone, there was a dial tone. You would hear like a little buzz, like zing, and you know that the phone is working. Well, in the same way, your vagus has a tone. When you get stressed, when you go through emotional heartache, say you go through a breakup, you hear about someone in your family passed away, those types of stress, they can shut down your vagal tone. And when that happens, the vagus is actually those little pulses that it's sending down to your digestive system are controlling things like stomach acid production, digestive enzyme secretion, stomach emptying, the motility of your small intestine. So everything gets paralyzed, and then food just sits like a rock in your stomach, or you lose your appetite. And what a lot of people don't realize is that low vagal tone is associated with actually mental health conditions, like anxiety and depression. And I don't know if I referenced this in the book. I think we did talk about this. There's a study that was done on people with treatment-resistant depression, and they found that they had low vagal tone. And if they used a vagal stimulation device on these patients who had treatment-resistant depression, that means they had been on multiple drug therapies and none of them were working, 37% of them reverted.
Wow.
And their depression resolved.
Wait, so what is low vagal tone?
It's basically, just think of the vagus nerve is basically like a wire, a wiring, and it sends impulses. And you're getting impulses going downstream from the brain down to the internal organs.
Always.
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a background that's happening. And then 70% of those fibers are actually pointing back up to the brain.
Oh, wow.
And those are getting stimulated in many different ways because the nerve endings of the vagus in the intestine actually have serotonin receptors. And those serotonin receptors can be stimulated by different things. So we have endocrine cells inside our small intestine called enteroendocrine cells that secrete serotonin that then stimulates those vagal nerve endings and sends signals back to the brain.
Mm-hmm.
But the microbiome also produces serotonin. Serotonin being, we call it the happiness molecule. And I want to mention something here because I realize this. I've seen this over and over. Like 95% of your serotonin is produced in the gut. Yes, and for people to understand this, that serotonin can't cross the blood-brain barrier. So yes, your happiness molecule is being produced in the gut, but it's not crossing the blood-brain barrier. That's not how it's having its effect.
Wow. I'm so happy you said that. I didn't know that.
It's something that I discovered through my research. And I thought, whoa, nobody's saying this. We just say like, oh, 95%, and you think it's just getting into your bloodstream.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's stimulating your vagus nerve, and your vagus nerve is then causing neuroplasticity and controlling the activity within the brain by secreting things like excitatory neurotransmitters like glutamate or GABA. And I find the contradictions are so interesting because the same nerve in one location is stimulating the brain, and in another location, it's actually telling things to shut down. So we're getting different effects, but the aggregate is you're getting this brain control that is really important for your autonomic nervous system because the vagus is part of that rest and relax and digest part of your nervous system. So this part of the work I do, and I know it's the latter part of the book, but it's one of the parts that excites me the most.
Yeah, and it kind of seems that this is a vicious cycle because if you get stressed, let's say, in your head, your brain is sending these signals down to the vagus nerve and you're having all of these IBS symptoms, if you will. But then also the bidirectional effect, if you are feeling good and you're not stressed per se mentally, but you eat, let's just say, a high sugar diet, or maybe you have 2 or 3 glasses of wine, then you are sending a signal to your brain, shutting off certain chemicals.
Absolutely. And
Interesting.
that's
That's scary.
I love that you picked up on that because that's something that's really a more holistic way of looking at things.
Mm-hmm.
So you realize that the process could start from the brain down to the gut, but then stress makes you have a glass of wine, makes you go for that ice cream, makes you go for those mashed potatoes, makes you go for all the comfort food. And then that comfort food, it may give you a little dopamine hit because of the sugar in the moment, but it's actually crashing your system. It's causing shifts in the gut microbiome that are going to shift towards more unfavorable bacteria. It's going to maybe promote yeast overgrowth. And that just gets you into this vicious cycle, and the person doesn't know the way out.
Yeah.
And yet the way out is always simpler than people think. One, I talk a lot about how to activate the vagus nerve.
Some people find that a bit woo-woo. Is that an actual thing? Because I feel, coming from neurology backgrounds, like if your vagus nerve isn't activated, then you're pretty much dead. So it's always activated.